Well, magazine giant Bauer this week held an event for advertisers and media buyers to reveal findings from their research into marketing to women and also to give an update on the company's plans. That includes new magazine launches and a target to have the biggest women's digital network in Australia. And Mediaweek's James Manning, of course, was there. And James, you were speaking to the Bauer Australia CEO, Matt Stanton, and some interesting revelations from him.
Yeah, there was. Look, we had him on the show a couple of times last year. We talked a bit about, I think, there was a big anniversary for the Australian Women's Weekly, their biggest selling magazine. We talked to him about the launch of Elle, but this was the first time they've had really a group function where they, talked about the offering, the power of the Bauer network of readers, if you like, and they spoke about some possible launches coming up too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's have a listen to that interview that James did with Matt Stanton.
Spend a bit of money on some research that you're going to take out to market, present it to all the big agencies and the clients, I guess. You talked a bit about the parent company willing to invest in the Australian market. You've already done that with a couple of launches, Elle and yours. How have they been going?
Yeah, very good. They're very much on plan and where we expected them to be. Both of them very good. I mean, we've launched Elle, we've launched yours. It's the most recent one we've done. We've also done a number of other launches as well. We actually, even in some of our sectors, other places, new farm machinery has come through. Weight Watchers we've launched actually just recently. Women's Witness about 18 months. Women's Fitness about 18 months old now. So there's a number of different launches we've done into the marketplace. We have intention to continue to launch as well. So we're looking at probably 3 or 4 concepts at the moment, with probably 2 that will come to market this year going forward. So we're very excited about those.
How hard can I push on some little information about that? Will it be, can I ask, will it be titles already existing in the Bauer network, perhaps?
No, it's not actually. It's Bauer. It's our own titles that we'll be putting through from here. We're not intending. We may launch some of the Bauer overseas titles over here, but the 2 or 3 that we're looking at the moment will just be new brands that we're bringing over here.
It's a little harder to get them away, to convince the your publishing parents that it's worthy of a shot?
No, not at all. No, they're very much on the local market is the way we work. I mean, very much it works with the power of the parent we've got there with the investment level, but very much the local markets are key. So we come through, we look at ideas and look at the landscape. Yours is very much in that manner that we were going to them, and then we came through and launched the product into the marketplace. And the same is of these other 2 products or 3 products that we'll launch out.
Your message to advertisers, is it a hard thing to juggle it all, that you're selling the print, but at the same time you're trying to convince them that you do have multi-platform offerings? You talked about, Australia has the lowest investment in print of the developed nations, but at the same time you do have a lot more to offer.
We do have a lot more to offer. I mean, I think this is a real critical issue from an advertising point of view in this marketplace. And we, as I alluded to earlier, we only have about 3%, I think, of the magazine, of the advertising expenditure out in the marketplace. And we really think that is underrepresented, especially against what the rest of the world is doing. So we see that people have moved away from magazine advertising more than they should have done. We're looking for them to drive them back. There is a bit of sentiment coming back now into the marketplace, and people are actually realising how powerful magazines are again. There are a number of studies that we've worked on to demonstrate this, and we're going to look to do some more studies to show the power of the magazine advertising out there. And then we have, people talk about digital platforms, etc. We have major platforms out there in the marketplace. We talked about tonight, for example, the amount of unique browsers we have. We have about 3.6 million UBs. We have actually 11 million social interactions every month across our social network, which is massive across our brands. We have 900,000 people looking at mobile apps coming through. So we have some major multi-platform capabilities out there at the moment, and people, one of the things tonight was talking to people to make sure that they understood that and they can advertise with us.
And you and your colleagues mentioned a couple of times, I think you've got an aim of, you really want to reinforce that you could become the #1 women's digital network.
That's right. I mean, and when you talk about investment from the parent is very much behind us on this, and we see it as a major opportunity. We already have massive reach with women on the multi-platform, but we're talking about going to the next level here and looking at completely developing some of our current products, but also launching a number of different products, very much around connected communities, about giving back time to females, and making our reach even deeper across both print and across digital as well.
And James Manning also spoke to Helen McCabe, Editor-in-Chief of the biggest selling magazine in the country, the Australian Women's Weekly.
Alan McCabe, we heard from you tonight about the power of women, how they're the decision makers. I think the stats are up around 80% of all the major purchasing decisions women make. But you said you found also that advertisers are generally misreading. Women don't feel like they're being marketed to properly. How do advertisers get it so wrong?
Yeah, look, it's really interesting. Certainly I talked about baby boomer women think that they don't talk to them, and most women don't like the way beauty ads speak to them. So it's a fascinating area, and I think it's something that we know very well because we're talking to women all the time. But maybe the decisions are being made by men. I mean, I don't want to really pick on men, but I do think that there's a sort of a hangover. A lot of men are working in advertising and making the decisions and aren't really checking with women about what we think and what we want. And I think that's where the disconnect is. And I guess my message tonight was when you're thinking about an advertising campaign, one of the people you should think about talking to is someone like the Women's Weekly or a magazine editor or the staff on magazines, because it's all we think about. You know, we are talking to women all the time, and that's all I do is think about how to relate to women, how to engage them, and talk to them about the stories and the ideas and the products that they're interested in. So that was my key message tonight.
Is it a message you've got to be careful delivering to? Because I guess some advertisers probably don't want to hear that they're not doing as good a job as perhaps they could be.
Look, I don't think so. I think I personally found that the clients of the magazine are really interested in talking to us and do want to know what I think about their messaging and how to relate to women. Most businesses are looking for growth, want to sell more product, and if you can give them an insight about where their messaging is going wrong and why it's going wrong, then they're really open to it. You know, something like for a long time and magazines have made this mistake, we talk about older women, you know, and how to engage older women. I tell you what you should never do is tell women they're old. So those sorts of things you see some advertising executions deliberately focusing older women because they are really a growing demographic and they are active and they're well resourced, they have time on their hands, they're well informed, but sometimes the way advertisers, and I guess, you know, people generally think about older women is a little condescending, and you get that through this research.
Another key message you had for advertisers tonight was the importance of digital. That you're a multi-platform company, you've got lots of options to engage with the market. I think the Weekly was one of the first to have an iPad edition. Surprised a lot of people. You thought, well, maybe that's not the market for it. But how's that going? Are you sort of making revenue headway there?
Well, that is one of the key messages. I think there's sort of a perception in the world that Bauer is about a printed product, but we're like every media company at the moment and restructuring and giving our audience multiple platforms. The Weekly is leading the way on that. Mobile, iPad, the internet is growing rapidly, a social media, viewer, and now we're talking about the Women's Network. So there are so many other areas to engage. In terms of the iPad, yeah, I was really annoyed at the time that there was this kind of, this is where things can go wrong about talking to women. I was annoyed at the time that because there's this assumption that the Weekly readership is a little bit older, that somehow older women wouldn't buy an iPad and want to read a magazine on it. I mean, that is just absolute nonsense. And that's the kind of thing when we talk about messaging to women, what we get wrong. And as it turns out, you know, women have been, the older women, I mean 40-year-old plus women have been the big growth area of Facebook, for example, and social media. So, of course, they're going to engage on the iPad. But, you know, it's interesting on the iPad. It had this boom period. It's kind of plateaued for us. I've been having some talks about that at the moment. I think in many ways we've kind of focused on our social media and our internet sites. So it's about giving resources to all of the platforms, and sometimes you go off in a bit of a flurry and concentrate on one. And don't get me wrong, the printed version of the magazine is still king. Everything rests on that. Great reporting, breaking stories, agenda setting, everything rests on that magazine being brilliant every month. So I am doing that at the same time. But the iPad, you know, the iPad is just, I think, another platform. It's not the Holy Grail. It's successful. Yes, we charge for it, and we are doing some interesting things coming up on that, but it's another platform.
Coming up on Media Week, all the executive moves of the week and the TV rating.